welcome to vlog number 41, y'all. We have a very special guest, John Baab, amazing guitar player, and thank you. And yeah, we're just hanging and playing some music, and I thought it would be awesome to inquire him. So I guess I'm really curious about like stuff that you're checking out, or you checked out and started checking out. I mean, I'm curious about a lot of things, so I'll ask you a few questions, but I'll start with maybe like what were the things that you checked out that made you sound so fucking good?
Oh, well, thank you. I guess growing up, I listened to a lot of like blues and R&B and classic rock, things like that. I also love Hendrix, guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan. I think a lot of that comes through, but I think in more recent years, been really digging like the jazzy stuff. And we were kind of talking earlier, like I'm not by any means a jazz player, but you know, certain elements of it, and I think it's making a resurgence of like hip hop and boom bap stuff, and I really enjoy that kind of stuff. Like growing up in Brooklyn, we always had that kind of music around. So yeah, it's just a big blend of things I've stolen from people.
Okay. And like, what would be like your advice, like specifically, like not theoretically, like when you come to the instrument, like I don't know, things that you figured out, you know. Sorry, like things that just like you're like, oh, okay, I understand. Like even if it's like a scale or like a fingering or like I don't know, something that is like, or stuff that you're practicing these days or practicing the path that were like really fundamental with you, and you're like, oh, this is the shit, you know. Like I feel that way with triad stuff. We just briefly talk about it,
right?
But I don't know what's your thing.
You know, I've also briefly spoke about, I kind of like glazed over the jazz education because I'm not a jazz player at all, and kind of like trying to play catch up as a guitar player was sort of, especially from like the blues and funk and rock background, you kind of have to like break out of these shapes, right? We learn the shapes so we can start playing the instrument quicker.
Yeah.
And within like the journey and pursuit of blending major and minor scales, I've started to look at music as just, you know, all the notes are always accessible to you, rather than thinking in these patterns and shapes, you know, trying to either connect them all together, and eventually when you do that, the shapes kind of fall to the wayside.
So I'm gonna open a little parenthesis. So I totally understand what you're saying, but can you like show me a little bit, or like an exercise that helped you specifically doing that? Because that's like, of course, like that's the hardest thing to like have the information so internalized, so you don't think about it.
Exactly.
Like, but so how do you?
So I mean, again, on the blues side, we're sticking like the pentatonic scale, right? Totally. A major. You know, well, first of all, you have of course the major scale, right? Going all the way up and all the way across the neck. And actually, really highlighting that is like knowing how to play, knowing you know, playing the scale maybe like 5 or 6 different places on the neck will kind of start to, you know, connect everything a little better.
Yeah. And how do you go about that even? So like, I mean, I remember like when the first thing that I studied like with scales were like I guess it was 5 positions, you know, like kind of like here, you know, like basically 5 positions for each scale, and then I was like, oh, okay, but you can connect them. So I used to practice with the metronome, just like trying to switch in different strings. But then I was like, okay, I can also practice like the 3 notes per string or different things. What was your like?
So kind of what I ended up doing, again, like just using the pentatonic scale. So, you know, we have that A major, of course, we have the A minor pentatonic. And I think everyone kind of learns like those boxes, like the blues boxes, and then like the B.B. King box, right? And then we also learn we can go to the relative minor and play F sharp minor pentatonic, right?
Maybe say something about it, because I'm not sure I mean, we know it, but
sure.
So everybody's like on page.
So yeah, so you can, you know, when you're playing an A major, you can also play that same, you know, and it falls into the F sharp minor pentatonic scale, and then you also have the A minor pentatonic scale, right? And if we keep going up the neck with both of these, they start to overlap. And I look at it as like a puzzle almost. So one thing I started to do was, okay, and I think a lot of guitar players will say, okay, I'm going to take like a 1-4-5 for example, and then for this chord I'm going to play with that major sound, like, right? And then maybe when you know go to the 4, you go back to minor, right? So and then there's that, but there is that segment. They live differently when you think about it like that. But then all of a sudden you can say, okay, well, what if I kind of blend the two together? Right? So we're kind of like using this C as the minor pentatonic. Yeah. And then falling back into, I keep saying minor and major pentatonic, but I'm really referring to A minor pentatonic and F sharp minor pentatonic.
Right, I hear you. And because from the F sharp minor thing, you get like you get like this this sound, like 1, 2, 3, 5.
Right, right. And then like I said, like within this A minor, you know, I was taught like the blues boxes. So we all know like, or there is in existence what we call the B.B. King box. Right? Yeah. And that's so subtle is really in that F sharp minor there, right? So so once I got that, it kind of like clicked a little bit for me, and I was like, oh, okay, so all I'm really doing here is changing major to minor, and just like becoming familiar enough with the fretboard, like you said, where it's internalized, and you don't really think about it as like F sharp minor pentatonic, A minor pentatonic. It's more like the feel or the vibe of the notes you're putting together, right? But you know, it's a journey. So
for sure,
definitely still building and trying to incorporate different things like triads and arpeggios into there. Yeah. So it's not so, I don't want to say one dimensional, but so it has some more flavors. I like to put more tools in the toolbox.
Right. Yeah, dude. I mean, you have a lot of tools. That's for sure.
Dude, man.
What about like stuff that you're checking out these days? Like, okay, so I mean, of course, you spend days and years and practicing. We all did, and then you can do a bunch of stuff, and like you're performing and touring and doing all this amazing stuff. Is that all on your website, by the way? They can check it out if they want to see you in New York or in the world.
Yeah, honestly, like my Instagram is the most updated account right now.
So
my website is still in construction. Yeah, my Instagram is just at John Baab, JohnBaab. And yeah, I update that the most. There's so many things to update these days.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. It's like you gotta do this, like, yeah, I know. Yeah. And so many messages and so many platforms, like, I know. I just don't.
It's a full-time job, you know. But these days, it's interesting because I think when I was younger, I think just generally speaking, when people are younger, they have more of like a chip on their shoulder and out to prove something. And these days, I'm really, like I said, really taking a step back from maybe being so notey or being trying to be like some guitar virtuoso. I'm much more interested in sitting in the pocket with like a great band and serving the song and having those tools that you spent hours and hours and years developing right there in your back pocket. They never go away. You keep them sharp when you practice, but really applying them in a tasteful way. And again, going for that vibe, like a D'Angelo kind of, it's so vibey, and the musicians are so killing, like it's the best in the world, but they're not having a shred fest on stage, they're right in the pocket, and that's really, that's been the pursuit of late, it's really just...
That's great, yeah. They're just like so understated on when they're playing, and that they can do anything. It's like, you see this, Brad Mello playing like one note, you're like, this is so killing.
Right, that's
like,
no you
he can do like everything, and that's the same way. I guess, I mean, with you and a bunch of people that, I mean, you guys can do a lot of things, but you choose to play like.
Right.
And like.
Yeah, and it's like putting the expression in there. I think I kind of always use this analogy is that I think the maximum speed limit I've ever seen in the U.S. is maybe 75 miles an hour. But our cars all go up to 180 and 200, And the idea is we don't want to be, if our cars only went up to 75, we'd be maxing out every time. So you really want to have this extra reserve,
Mm-hmm.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. I like it. I do like that. It's good.
So you build up to here so you can play here, you know what I mean?
And here feels so comfortable.
Right.
It's like you can go there, and...
Yeah, and it's more effective, bust it out every now and then, as opposed to like full throttle all the time as well.
Cool. when is the gig? Oh, I guess when is the tour that you guys are going to?
Yeah, so going on tour with my band Kindo, and we're partnering up with Little Ty B. That is starting March 5th, I believe. Actually, I might not be right about that, so let me double check. But it's somewhere in the first week of March, and the gig we're doing together at Rough Trade in Brooklyn is the 17th, I believe.
Yes. Yes.
It's gonna be a fun one.
Yes.
It's gonna be fun.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Thanks, guys, for checking it out. Check his music, his website, the band. I mean, is like amazing. Seriously. So if you want to be inspired, just check his music and be like, oh, okay.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, man.
Yes.
Dope. You got it.
Good?
Yeah.